Today's show is brought to you by Audible, and right now you can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/joined-up. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle or MP3 player. Thanks for tuning in to the Joined Up Writing Podcast, a weekly show featuring interviews with fantastic authors sharing their personal stories on how and why they write. There's hints and tips for aspiring writers and great book reviews from top bloggers. Follow us on Twitter at JU Podcast. Right, cue the cheesy theme tune.
Put down your pen and stop your typing. Grab yourself a drink, cause it's Joined Up Writing. The Epilogue.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Epilogue, our bonus in-between episodes that are little quick listens containing an extra question or topic not covered in the original interview. This week I'm following up my chat with Bonnie Macbird, ex-screenwriter and now novelist, creating brand new Sherlock Holmes novels. If you missed it, you can find a full interview over at joinedupwriting.co.uk, or even better, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify or wherever else you get your podcast these days, and you can get it automatically downloaded every week. Joined Up Writing's now past its 3-year anniversary, and we've got a pretty big archive of interviews, 2-minute tips, epilogues and writing chats for you to enjoy, and it's all completely free. However, if you do want to show your appreciation or support the show, you can do that in a few different ways, all of which will cost you absolutely nothing. Firstly, you could take advantage of the free 30-day Audible trial and go to audible.com/joined-up to download a completely free audiobook of your choice to keep. Although it costs you nothing, as an official affiliate, the show receives a few pence for each of you that do that, so that's one way you could support us. Alternatively, you could take 30 seconds to leave a quick iTunes rating and review, as that helps other people to find the show, and it means I can continue to attract brilliant guests and improve the content of the show. And if you can't be bothered to do any of that, no worries, I really appreciate you listening anyway, but maybe you could just share the show on social media or even just tell someone else about it. I want to continue to build and improve the show into the new year, and I can only do that with your help. Right, let's get to this week's bonus chat, where I asked Bonnie to give some tips on screenwriting and how thinking in a different way can achieve a positive impact on your novel writing too. Hi Bonnie, thanks for staying around for the epilogue, for our little quick listen bonus section of the show, where we ask a little bit of an extra question or cover a topic that wasn't covered in the main interview. So I touched on it in the main interview, but obviously you've got a lot of experience with script writing and script editing, and you actually still teach script writing now, or screenplay writing. So I was thinking, we speak to quite a lot of novelists, and I speak to a lot of other writers who are thinking of trying their hand at script writing, or maybe thinking about trying to write a script or a screenplay. Have you kind of got any tips for people kind of moving in that direction? Obviously, you went from screenplays to novels, but some people go back the other way. So, what sort of things should they consider if they're coming from a background of writing books?
Well, it's a different form of writing, and it's one that requires a brevity that you don't need so much in novel writing or short story writing. So my recommendation is to read some really, really good scripts, first of all, to immerse yourself and kind of study them, and look particularly to the way that characters are introduced, the way action is described, and the amount of dialogue versus action. That is the ratios, of course, they vary depending on the genre. And like, for example, like an action sequence might be all action description for a couple of pages, depending on what's going on and what kind of movie you're writing. But I would study some scripts in the genre that you're interested in writing. I would look at the really successful writers. There's an older writer who, to me, has one of the most elegant screenwriting styles and the most it's not terse is not the right word. He just has the perfect balance, and that would be William Goldman. So I would read some William Goldman scripts because they are like beautiful examples of great screenplay writing. But then again, also read others, particularly in the genre you're going to be looking at. And it used to be those were hard to come by and you had to have a friend in the studio and so forth, but now so many of them are online. I also would spend relatively little time reading books about writing or books about fixing yourself because so many of us writers, go, oh, I'm not spending my time correctly and I'm not, and I'm depressed and I this, that, and that. Every kind of book around this that they're doing. But in fact, what you have to do is read in your genre and sit your butt on the chair and write.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice. One of my questions was, you've kind of answered it really. I was going to say, were there any particular, you've mentioned scripts, which I completely agree. I think that's a great idea. I didn't know whether were there any texts or any books specifically about screenwriting or whatever that you would recommend?
Yeah, there's one that's not so well known that I quite like. You mentioned in our interview, Save the Cat, and that is kind of the preeminent one. That is the one that everybody is buying now and reading, and there's a lot of great tips in there. There's one that I want to recommend that is less well known, and I'm looking it up on Amazon right as we speak. It's a woman wrote it named Kate Wright, I believe. I'm just looking it up right here because I can't remember. I think it's called Writing the A-List Screenplay or something like that. Here it is. Screenwriting is Storytelling. That's the primary title of it. And it is by a woman named Kate Wright, Wright.
Brilliant. I haven't heard of that one either. I'll check that out.
Nobody's really heard of that one so much, but I quite like that one. I'm not as crazy about the McGee stuff simply because the book is so dense and it's filled with so many rules and suggestions that to me, when I read it in a more formative state as a screenwriter, it basically stopped me from writing just because it had too much instruction. As a reference book, it's good. But Save the Cat doesn't have that problem. The only thing I would concern myself about Save the Cat is it's a little bit formulaic, and I just mentioned that screenwriting, there are many different suggestions for how to structure your screenplay. And, there's the 14 sequence one, and the 12 sequence one, and the 3 act, and the this and that. Well, none of these are laws. I personally kind of lean toward the 3 act structure simply because we are wired as human beings to
I agree,
read story in that form. So I actually follow a 3 act structure in my books, and because I've been writing a lot of things for a long time, I don't map them out exactly, but I do have them kind of in my head. So like I know when I need to bring the climax, bring the excitement to a climax. And then I know that when I've solved it, I really need to get out quickly. And so, I mean, just some basic things like that. But so my, if you want, I can actually email you. I have a handout on that that I give to my writing class, but
yeah,
so,
that'd be great.
Yeah, there's a million. So that's another thing, along with self-help books, that you can overindulge in as a writer, is like the millions of structures you can use. So be careful with that. But I do like this one book, this Screenwriting is Storytelling by Kate Wright.
Well, I'll put that in the show notes. Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes. Yeah, I agree. I think the 3 act structure kind of, as you say, I think we're hardwired. I mean, it's kind of like with a joke, you get the setup, the joke, the punchline,
right? And
it's kind of, most stories kind of follow that structure one way or another. It's kind of, it just feels, it's almost instinctual, or it should be.
Yes,
if you read enough stories or you watch enough TV or film.
Yes, it is. It's true. And when it doesn't follow it, you feel disjointed. You feel like, wait, you have 3 endings here. Like, wait, I thought it was over, but it's not
exactly.
over. But, it's ending. You feel you feel pushed around as the audience or the
Yeah.
reader.
Yeah.
And
It's not a smooth ride.
yeah. And so these things aren't hard and fast rules, because that's the other thing. There's not an exact page count that they're supposed to be at. So you have to feel that out a little, but they're guidelines that should be heeded.
Yeah, well, that I agree with what you're saying about Save the Cat, because I mean, I think some of the best parts of that book are more to do with the general kind of concepts, like the concept of the Save Your Cat thing and building characters and things.
Yes.
I agree with you when it sort of says, you know, on page 56 this should happen, or whatever it is. You know, if you turn to this, you know, page whatever it is, 95, and this should be happening, or it should be around there, or whatever, and all that kind of stuff, and the smell of death and all that. I think the concepts are sound, but I agree. I mean, I'm not one for... I think that would drive me crazy, is trying to do it that scientifically. I think it kind of takes all the fun out of it, apart from anything else.
Right. You have to... It's interesting that when you write anything that requires intense structure, and a screenplay does, and really a mystery does as well, I mean, you have to... You keep it in mind, and you have to kind of alternate your mindset from being really structured and really, like, cleaving to the rules, and then you have to be really free, and then you go back and forth between these two mindsets because you need them both.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you structure a novel, obviously you mentioned you've kind of got all this in the back of your head from all the screenplay experience and everything else that you've got, and you teach screenplay writing. Do you outline your novel quite extensively, or do you kind of just go, well, here's a premise, I've got a rough idea of where I want to go, and off you go, and then you work out in the edit?
I'm a pantser, so that means I know the major crime and who did it, and then I just surprise myself along the way, and then I go back and strengthen the structure, and tighten where it need, and like when I need to get someplace faster, or realize that I need more complications here, or they're too many. In my case, I tend to overcomplicate things. This is my personal tendency. So I do that too. I will have way more threads and way more ideas than will actually end up in the final thing. Some people have the opposite problem, where they need to enrich something, and they need to have more character moments, or they need, whatever. So I but that doesn't mean that I suggest everyone work as a pantser. Do you use that term?
No.
Pantser.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we use it a lot. Yeah, fly by the seat of your pants. Yeah, pantser or a plotter. Right. Yeah.
I used to think that mystery writers, because mysteries are so structured, mystery writers were all plotters. They would plot it out and do an outline first. And I've been going to a lot of mystery conventions, and it turns out that most of them are pantsers, which is quite surprising to me.
That's interesting. It is. Yeah, it surprises me, actually.
Yeah, not all of them, of course, but most of them. But I'm kind of I sort of weave back and forth, but I do the majority of my work pantsing, and because I find, like, I know that the client's going to walk in and present a case to Sherlock Holmes, but I don't know everything she or he is going to say. And I certainly don't know what Watson's reaction to this person is going to be, or in what way, Holmes is going to do something funny, like something weird is going to happen. I don't know often until it starts to happen. And
you're in the room and their characters misbehave.
There's a funny little hint that we do in screenwriting. It's like, when a scene, and I got this actually from acting, but it's true for writing too, is when a scene is boring, you pick up a prop.
yeah, that's
and then
true.
You need to view that prop with story. So something has to be done with that prop. So that's I'm just going to throw that out there and not explain that too much, but I'm just going to say it works a lot of the time.
Oh, it does. I mean, I think, a lot of actors use that as a way to steal the scene. You'll often see old pros, you'll see them do it.
Yep.
They'll pick up a pen and mess about with it almost like it's a cigarette or something, and they just steal the scene. They're just old pros. They just know that if they do that, that's probably who you're going to be looking at.
It's not just that they're clicking the pen. It actually, the prop tells you something about the character. So
show don't
how they're
tell,
handling, what they do with it, what the thing means to them, or whatever, or the reaction it elicits from the other characters. I mean, there's actually story content, to it. I mean, and it just happens, and it's really quite. It's a weird, it's just a funny one, actually, but. anyway.
Well, it's great. It's great fun as a writer, isn't it? It's when you see your characters come to life like that, and just it's almost they've got a mind of their own.
Yeah, one of my scenes give scene assignments to my students, and I teach a 10-week class, and each week they have a very specific scene assignment, and one of them is that it has to take place in a restaurant with two people, because I also have professional actors in the class, and they're all two-person scenes, and so they're sitting in a restaurant, and they have a history between them, and one person takes something out of either their purse, their briefcase, or a bag they brought with them, puts it on the table, and it changes everything. That's all the direction I give them.
Yeah.
And they have so much fun with that one. Some of the best scenes.
Yeah, it's a great way to start a short story prompt to something as well. Actually, I might steal that.
Yeah, quite fun. So you're writing short stories?
I write. I'm actually writing a novel at the moment, a crime novel, my first crime novel. So, what will be my first crime novel when I'm going to independently publish it next year. So, I've written the first draft, and I'm currently working on the second draft of it. Well, I'm redrafting and editing at the moment. So, yes. Yes, that's going to be interesting. But I do write short stories, and I'm in a critique group, and as I say, they'll often kind of as a weekly exercise to kick off the sessions. We set whoever's in the chair that week. They give a task, and it'll be, as I say, it'll be like 100 or 150 words, and it'll be, it'll have to contain a word, or it's to do with a colour, or has to be written in a certain point of view, or whatever it is. It'll be a different limitation each week. And it just sends you off spinning into all these different directions. So it's really good fun, and it's kind of a good warm. I guess it's equivalent to an acting class. It'd be like a warm up exercise, to get you going. Yeah,
I actually teach in the first lesson of the first class is how to do writing practice. Because if you think about it, like if you look at like a concert musician, their job is not to play concerts. Their job is the practice, and so it's like how do writers practice? Like, do you only work on your big project? It's like, no, you actually need writing practice as well, just like musicians need scales and singers
completely
warm up. And so I do a very specific that's rather like this, a one-word prompt. But the directions are you have to keep the hand moving. You can't stop at all. So you can't stop to think. You can't rewrite. You just write with stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
But that also... when it gets to be, and it's to time. So like, say it's a 3-minute or a 5, whatever. Yeah. So I will be calling the time out. And so when it's close to the end, I'll say, and bring it around. So meaning like wherever you went with this, bring it back to the beginning in some way.
I see,
and that, that just sort of, you start to inhale structure that way. And you start to realize, and then the next one you do, you realize you want to go to a place that you then can come back or make a point with or something, wrap around to. And so you just start writing with already just this kind of vague, but freeing, very free, but yet this vague sense of you're going somewhere.
It becomes like, it's almost like muscle memory, isn't it? It becomes sort of second nature.
Yeah. It's quite fun, and people are nervous about it at first, and then and so then we read aloud, and if you want, you don't have to read your thing aloud, but I teach something called directed listening to the class, because I don't let my students crit each other aloud in the class, because I think it's a waste of time. But what I do is have them do directed listening, where I learned this in a writing workshop from someone else. That so the person reads their stuff aloud, and you echo back to them words or phrases that struck you. That's all.
I see. Yeah, I see.
And suddenly they feel their stuff has landed, and they also hear what landed. Usually it's strong sensory detail. And then they start to realize that using strong sensory detail is a big plus in your writing. It's very evocative. And even when it's not really about the thing, it's really, giving you a feeling, or it's even expressing a theme or whatever. But the sensory detail is your route in, or it's a moment of very honest or intense emotion. And they suddenly realize that's what people are hearing. That's what's popping off the page to people. And So anyway, it's a very fun exercise, and it's very life enhancing. I mean, there's no criticism involved. There's no, these are just practice. So there's nobody's going, I didn't get that, or I don't know what you meant by that. None of that is happening.
Yeah, sure. Like it's a good analogy, the music analogy, as you say. It's a warm up, or it's a practicing a certain technique over and over again. It's a really good. It's a really, really good tip. Well, thank you very much. I've got so much out of both our chats. Really, really enjoyed it. And it's been lovely talking to you. So thanks for hanging around for the epilogue as well.
Oh, you're welcome. A pleasure to talk to you too.
There you go, another interesting chat with Bonnie Macbird, and you can find out more about Bonnie and her work at macbird.com. And do make sure you check out the full interview from last week too. So that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. I'm Wayne Kelly. Happy reading and writing, and I'll see you next time.